It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It's a teaching tutorial Thursday. And I am so excited to talk to my buddy and Hall of Famer Tony Boselli momentarily. We are presented, of course, by DraftKings. Love me some DraftKings. Just like last week, we still don't have any Tux takes, although I am now back somewhere where they do have self-service. So if anything happens, I'll be all over social media at Ross Tucker NFL, at Ross Tucker Pod. So please follow along. If there's anything big, I'll do an emergency video, a Ross rapid reaction, if you will. And then, of course, we can talk about it further on Monday's Ross Tucker Football Podcast. But I mentioned that just so that you know we don't have any winners again this week. Maybe you know what I'll do? Since you guys have been awesome the last couple of weeks, maybe I'll pick winners for Monday. Maybe I'll have a spread the word winner, a sponsor confirmation email winner, and a YouTube shout out winner for Monday. And you know what else? Maybe one of you that's never tried to win, you assume you can't, or you just don't feel like it. Maybe one of you will say, you know what? I'm going to try this weekend. I'm going to subscribe to youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, and I'm going to make a comment. And I bet you Ross sees it. And I bet you Ross picks me. And I bet I get an awesome cameo video that I can send to all my buddies at the start of our fantasy football draft. Maybe you do that. Or maybe you take advantage of some of the sponsors like Express Clothing or Athletic Greens, which is awesome. I've been telling you guys about Athletic Greens for a while now. You know why? Because it's true. A lot of you take a multivitamin. This is way better than a multivitamin. It costs you less than $3 a day. I know most of us don't eat enough vegetables, myself included. If you're watching on YouTube, hand raised. I do not eat enough vegetables. Why not just drink something that has 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens? Helps with digestion, that's for sure. I take it in the morning on an empty stomach because that's what they recommend. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Ross. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/Ross to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
As promised, we are now joined by the Hall of Famer. I've waited a long time to be able to say that. The Hall of Famer, Tony Boselli. Tony, thanks so much for coming on the show again, man. Congratulations.
Ross, I appreciate it, man. I like the sound of that. I don't think I'll ever get used to it. I don't think it'll ever get old. It's funny, you and I do the radio together, and whenever you hear someone get introduced, like here with Kevin Harlan saying Hall of Famer James Lofton on the broadcast, or you're with people that get introduced, you always kind of hear that moniker. And I don't know about you, but I have that moniker before the introduction. I always like, man, that is so cool. I've always thought it was cool. As a player, I thought it was cool. Before making the Hall of Fame, I thought it was cool, and now to have that, it's just dang right cool.
It's interesting because it is awesome, and people do introduce you like that. Like, I don't understand why I don't get introduced like that. I am a member of the Berks County chapter of the Pennsylvania State Hall of Fame, but they don't say that for you unless you're like in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But honestly, man, you're going to get introduced like that now for the rest of your life. That is such a cool thing. And you're right, because you and I both work for Westwood One. And whenever James Lofton's on, or Rod Woodson, or Kurt Warner, they say it every time. Or Boomer Esiason was the MVP When I'm doing the game, they're just like, I'm here with Ross.
Yeah, it's one of the many cool things that's happened since finding out I made the Hall of Fame. So it's really cool. And I'll just say before I go any further, I got really thankful to you and a number of other people in the media and peers and guys who played the game or covered the game, just for all the support over the years. I mean, you have videos every year you do, but the one this year even went viral again. Supported my case for the Hall of Fame. So it's not lost on me, and I really appreciate it.
Well, as you know, it's my pleasure, and honestly, it's not because I know you or like you. It's just the truth. I mean, I was pretty outspoken about Richard Seymour as well. You know, there's guys I watched, and I just feel strongly about. By the way, once you make the Hall of Fame, does God just like shine a light on your face for the rest of your life?
Yeah, we played. You know, you called me last night to do this. I actually forgot this morning. I was doing something else, and then so I was scrambling to try to find somewhere to do this because I'm in this condo in Jacksonville Beach because my wife and I are building a new house, and I can't get away from the sunrise. There's windows everywhere. I'm like looking around, and if I go to other places, it's too dark and you can't see. So I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna have to sit here with the sun right in my face. So, but you know what? The good news is I'm looking out at the Atlantic Ocean, the beach with the sun coming up, talking to you. So it's not a bad deal.
That is hilarious. So you got to tell me, how and when did you find out? Like this year was weird because it was a Thursday night with the NFL honors, which I like because I never watched Saturday night. Saturday night I was doing something. So I like that it was a Thursday night. So how did it all go down this year?
Well, you know, Ross, they voted on the 18th of January. That's when the vote happened. But I found out the knock that I think a lot of people have seen, Anthony Munoz knocking on the door, happened the 27th. So there's like 9 days in between. And the funny thing about my wife found out the 19th, the day after the vote, the Hall of Fame called her. She didn't tell me because they had to call somebody to plan, like, okay, where is he going to be on this day? So I travel a lot for work, because they had to schedule Anthony Munoz, get everyone in, the TV crew, because they do this whole like production. It's a big, like had no idea they were outside the door.
Wait, I didn't see it. What door did they knock on?
So they came to Jacksonville, and my wife set up this whole thing, and I'll send you the clip. I'll text it to you. The NFL Network, Steve White, the Hall of Fame Jim Porter, Anthony Munoz, they all flew here. And my wife's like worked with our good friends to get me to go, like, to set up this fake business meeting at one of my mentors and best friend's house. And they said, hey, can you come over at this time? Because we're doing X, Y. They made up this whole excuse. My wife wasn't there. It was just a meeting between me and my buddy. So I show up, and the meeting's supposed to start at 3:00. And he says, hey, can you get here at 2:45? I just want to talk about some stuff. And I said, sure. So I get there. I'm not thinking anything because this is very normal for this guy to call me. And I show up to his house. He lives in Jacksonville, Jacksonville Beach. And I go in, and we're talking. And like 10 minutes later, he says, hey, can you go down? Someone's knocking at the door. And he's fighting. He's fighting cancer. And so he's going through chemo. So he's like, I don't want to walk downstairs. Do you mind go get in the door? Because it's so-and-so who's coming to meet us. I said, absolutely. So I walk down the stairs. There's a knock on the door. I open it up. It's Anthony Munoz in his gold jacket telling me, welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, my gosh. That is awesome.
I'll send you the clip.
Because like, the way it used to be, you'd be in a hotel wherever the Super Bowl is, and you're kind of like anxious, like, am I going to get the knock or am I going to get the call? But either way, it's coming. You're kind of on edge. This, you were just totally surprised out of the blue.
Well, I was surprised, but listen, there was a lot of anxiety because I knew when the vote was, and the fact that I hadn't heard anything for 9 days, I'm like, uh-oh. Because I'm like, you figure they're going to tell the guys who make it first, and then they'll call everyone else. And I'm like, this is getting late in the day. I wonder if I didn't make it again. And so I got the knock. And then the worst part is I had to be quiet. I couldn't tell anybody for 2 weeks because that was the 27th, was the Thursday. The honor show was 2 weeks later in LA. And they said, listen, don't. And I give everyone credit. It stayed out of the press. I mean, it wasn't on Twitter. I mean, they did a good job of keeping it quiet. And then they announced it to the world at the honor show on Thursday night before the Super Bowl. So it was an amazing process. It was hard to keep it quiet for 2 weeks. You know, it's funny. A lot of people would call me and text me, and they say, "Hey, we're praying for you." And I had to go along with it. But Ross, everything in me wants to say, "Well, stop praying. It's already done. I'm in. Pray for like sick kids and poverty and world peace. Or pray for something because like it's done. We're good. We're good." So. But yeah, it's been an amazing, like, the whole journey, and it just, you know what it does? It just forces, for me at least, it's made me just look back and it's so much gratitude. You look at the journey of how you get here, you know, starting with Pop Warner, and you play high school football, and you go through that, and you go to college, you get drafted. I mean, just so many cool moments, cool relationships, cool opportunities along the road, and for it to kind of accumulate in Canton, you know, at the Hall of Fame, as far as kind of the journey of playing football, and it's just really cool.
So when Munoz came, your wife wasn't there. Like, when did you get to see your wife and like hug her?
Oh yeah, that was the cool thing. So no, I opened up the door, and it's Anthony Munoz. And, you know, that's the guy. That's the standard. That's the GOAT. That's the one who sets, you know, how the position is to be played, the standard. So he opens the door. It's him. Right behind him is the NFL Network and the Hall of Fame, Jim Porter. And then right behind them is my entire family. My wife, my stepmom flew in from California because my dad had passed away last year. My mom, all my kids. My kids drove up from South Florida, who were going to school from Gainesville. They all were sitting there right behind the NFL Network. My in-laws, my wife's parents. It was awesome. It was so cool.
Dude, I'm getting chills just hearing you describe that. Because that's the thing. I mean, like, it's cool about Munoz, and it's cool that you're getting the Hall of Fame. But what makes it special is, like, sharing it with your family.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, because you know this because you know the process before. Like, you'd be up in a hotel on Saturday, and they come knock on the door if you made it or call you if you didn't. Well, in all those situations, I'd have my family with me. And so when I got the phone call, they'd all be crying and like so upset. And I'm like, okay, who didn't get in the Hall of Fame, me or you? And but to have the flip side for them to participate and partake in the celebration was awesome. And so that was there were so many cool moments, so many cool family moments, Ross. I mean, Thursday night after the honor show, the Jags and my wife threw a party for me at USC. Past teammates showed up. I mean, from USC and the Jags. And they did a video for me with all these people saying cool things and making fun of me, which I love. I love, everyone giving me a hard time, ex-teammates. It's like a locker room. And at the end, like the coolest moment, this is like, and I've said it enough times where I'm at least getting through this without getting emotional. You'll understand in a second. At the end of this video, a video of my dad pops up. Now, my dad, one of the things that really bothered me last year when I didn't make it, my dad was fighting cancer, and I knew there was a good chance he wasn't going to make it through the year. And so when I got the call last January, a year ago, January, that from David Baker that I didn't make it in the Hall of Fame, I was like, that's a bummer. But the big bummer was my dad, I knew he was in a battle for his life. So he ends up dying on Memorial Day of 2021. And so that, you go, anyone who's lost a parent, you go through all the emotions. I've gone through them all. I was close to my dad. And what I didn't know, 12 days before he died, my wife and one of my best friends convinced him to do a video of congratulating me making the Hall of Fame.
Oh
man,
dude.
And so I'm sitting at USC, and all these funny videos and really nice videos are going on. And then all of a sudden, the video of my dad comes up 12 days before he died. And Ross, I couldn't watch it. I feel like just put my head in my hands. And I was like, all I heard him say is, "I'm just so proud of you." And like, what else do you like? What else do you want as a son? Like that. And and my wife, and I have yet to watch it because I don't like crying. My kids will tell you that so I always like, so it's not because I'm like some tough guy, I just avoid it. Like I'm like, it's not, I'm not saying it's a healthy thing. And so I'm going to watch the whole thing at some point. But the funny thing is my wife told me my dad didn't want to do it because he didn't want to admit he was dying. And so they had to convince him, and I'm so glad he did. It was so cool. And
wow.
I don't know if I'd ever seen if I didn't make the Hall of Fame, they probably never shown it to me. So make the Hall of Fame got me to see my dad talking about me one last time, which was amazing.
That is incredible and amazing foresight by your wife. Two more questions, I think. Do you think it meant more to you since you had to wait? Do you think, I mean, the 5 years or 6 years, whatever it was, if you had gotten in right away, probably wouldn't have been quite as emotional. I'm not saying it makes it better that way, but just, I guess, your thoughts on having to wait and what that did to the process.
It makes you appreciate it. There's no doubt about that. I think anything in life, when you have to kind of go through ups and downs and you see how hard it is, you probably appreciate it more. I mean, the hardest part about me waiting was less about the Hall of Fame, was the fact that it was a reminder that my career was cut short because of injuries. Like every time I didn't make it, it was because, oh, you didn't play enough games. And so it was like annual, of other people reminding me. Trust me, I remind myself enough, like looking back, because I love the game. I mean, Ross, you and I've talked about this. I'd go play right now if I could. I mean, I just love it. And so when that was taken away because of injury and a bad surgery that didn't work, that was the hardest part, because every year, like, oh, you're not going to make it because something that you had no control over. You did nothing wrong, but you're not.
It wasn't your play. Like, it wasn't your performance that was
No.
preventing you from being in the Hall of Fame. It was the injury.
That's right. And so that was the hardest part. And so it does make it so sweet to get in. And so, but I do think, I mean, your point's a good one. I think when you wait and you have to kind of fight for or persevere to go through stuff, it makes it even that much better.
Was there any part of you that thought there was a chance that it might not happen? Or did you just think, I'm going to get in, it's just a matter of time?
No, I told my wife, and this is funny because she actually knew I was already in. The night before the Anthony Munoz knock, we were at dinner, and I was grumpy. I was feeling sorry for myself and everything else because, like, I thought maybe I didn't make it. And I told her, I said, Ange, if I don't make it this year, I don't think I'll ever make it. I thought this was the last year, not because my eligibility was up, because at some point it wasn't like I was just a finalist for 6 straight years, Ross. I was top 10. I was like at the doorstep for 6 straight years, meaning I felt like if, with no surefire, first ballot guy in this class, not that they're, guys like DeMarcus Ware and Devin Hester and others didn't deserve strong consideration. I felt like, if it's not this year, I don't think it's ever going to happen. And I actually, and maybe it was to protect myself, but throughout the process over the 6 years, I had several conversations with myself where I had to convince myself, and I told my wife this. I said, hey, listen, if it doesn't work, I'll be okay. And I said, but don't take that for me not wanting to be in the Hall of Fame. And don't take that as that this won't be a defining moment in life. But if it doesn't happen, I'll be okay. And I had to do that, Ross, because I didn't, how is that fair to anyone in my life, my family, my kids, or any of my friends, that if every year when I don't make it, or I didn't make it, or if I never make it, that I'm going to let it ruin my life.
Right.
So that was just, I had to have that moment. It was an important moment for me. Like, okay, I'll be okay. Now, it was painful because the thought of going into the future of not making the Hall of Fame because of an injury was hard, but it was a conversation I had to have with myself.
Awesome. Tony, really appreciate the time. I've had you on a couple times talking about you when you didn't get in. So it's really
This
nice.
is much better. This is much better, Ross.
This is a better conversation. Check him out on Twitter at Tony Boselli. Congratulations, man. So happy for you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Ross.
So excited to be there with Tony in Canton in a few weeks. That's going to be cool. That's going to be cool for the social media posts. That's going to be a cool experience for my wife and I. And that's going to be cool for each and every one of you because I'm going to talk about it on Monday's Ross Tucker Football Podcast that weekend. So I've never been. So it's going to be awesome going to see Tony Boselli get inducted. For me, it's probably a once-in-a-lifetime experience. None of my teammates have ever invited me, so why not go when Tony Boselli invites me? Because he's the man, which is awesome. Plus, I'm thrilled Seymour's getting in too. Because Seymour and Boselli, you guys know, they're the ones I've been banging the drum for a couple of years, just like I've been banging the drum for these shirts from Express, the bold button-downs, the polos. I've been telling you about the lightweight linen, breathable cotton fabrics for the suits. But how about denim? How about we make today a denim day? My daughters have that at their school, by the way, denim day. But guess what? They can do a denim day and have khaki, olive, white, all kinds of denim shades at Express. Find something for every destination at Express, online or in store. Let's do an email, Bri.
Ever wanted to ask an NFL player a question? Well, here's your chance. It's time to Ask Ross.
The email address is ross@rosstucker.com. I am very appreciative of when you reach out and you want to be a sponsor of the show or you want me for like a speaking engagement or something. It's awesome. And I think it's cool. I also love when you take advantage of a sponsor like Jan Lehman did and you send me an email that proves you took advantage of one of the sponsors that keeps these things going, ross@rosstucker.com. What do you got, Bri?
I love hearing from our good friend Jan Lehman, who asks today's question, Ross. When I first started watching football many years ago, either the starting quarterback or the backup quarterback was the holder for extra points and field goals. I believe the reasoning back then was that quarterbacks were considered more adept at taking snaps and more sure-handed. At some point, though, those duties were transferred to the punter. Why? It would seem to me a quarterback gives you greater potential for fake field. Plus, it would also put added pressure on the defense. Thanks again. Love all the great content every week. It makes the offseason much more bearable.
Thanks, Jan. Jan's the man. Jan's the guy that I met before a Bills game. I think it might have been the Bills-Patriots playoff game, and he brought me some local beer, which was amazing. Gosh, you guys are the best. Anyway, Jan, it's a great question. And I think I know the answer, but I might ask some people or maybe even get a special teams coach on the show to have them verify it. Essentially, what it comes down to is you only have so much time with the players and you only have so much on-field time. And I think they actually spend a lot more time now with the holder, the snapper, and the kicker than they used to. And the quarterbacks don't have that kind of time. In other words, while the offense and defense are doing individual drill or 7-on-7 or team or inside run, the long snapper, the punter, and the kicker, they're just working on their stuff all day. So they just get so good at it. Plus, the punter is so used to seeing the ball come from the long snapper, both on punts and field goals, that they just get comfortable with it, right? They're just they have the timing down. It's like what do they call it? The battery. They just feel the kicker is comfortable with the punter because he hangs out with them all the time, because kickers and punters hang out together. They've worked on it a zillion times. If you put a quarterback in there who didn't do as many reps, then the kicker's maybe not quite as confident. So that's the answer. But you're right. I don't think it should be a reason to keep a bad punter, number one. Number two, I'm sure plenty of the quarterbacks, especially backup quarterbacks, could do it just fine because they probably did it in high school, maybe even college. Good question, Jan. Really good question. Not surprised. I'm also not surprised a lot of you like listening to Simon Hunter this week on the Even Money podcast, or liked our first dive into the top prospects for the NFL draft. Both Greg on Monday with some more quarterbacks and receivers, Emery going over the top 10 players in the ACC. It's time to get excited about college football and about the top prospects going into the season. And of course, we talked O-line rankings on the Fantasy Feast podcast this week. Other than that, have a great, awesome weekend. We'll be back live Monday with Tuck's takes on everything important that happened the last couple weeks and everything that happens over the weekend. Did I do shout-outs, Brad? I don't think I did.
Not yet.
I didn't do shout-outs for SteakhouseSports.com, HumanHeadNYC.com, Sporticulture, Pizza Boy Brewing, Go-Bengals.com, Evergreen Economics. Now I did. Now I think we're done here.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, RossTucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.